This podcast is being recorded on the traditional land of the Blackfoot Confederacy. This consists of the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, and the Blackfeet in the U.S. We acknowledge the Stoney Nakoda, which consists of the Bearspaw, Morley, and Chiniki. We acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, who are Dene, and the Métis, Inuit, status and non-status from all of Turtle Island, and those who are visiting. We are all treaty people.
Welcome to the Dave Leary Show.
Welcome to the Voices in Recovery podcast, brought to you by Freedom's Path Recovery Society in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember that these opinions that are shared are those of the individuals and not of any agency, organization, or other entity, unless otherwise specified. Also, if you're a minor, please check with your parent and or guardian, as you need to have permission to listen to these podcasts. We will potentially talk about violent subject matter, sexual content, and difficulties human beings face on their day-to-day lives in recovery. Tonight's guest is a friend of mine and just, I think, a pretty amazing human being, and I have wanted to sit down and hear your story and talk to you since we started this podcast, since I met you. But because we started the podcast right around the same time I met you, I didn't think it was a good idea within that first year, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Anita, you take it away. Tell us your story.
Oh, hi. I'm Anita. I guess I am an alcoholic. I will leave it at that.
Okay.
I am in recovery. Been in recovery for about, just over 22 months now. So
Congrats.
thanks. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm pretty excited to do this. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to share my story on recovery. It's an
honor for us. So,
I haven't really talked about my story very much. A lot of people know what got me here, but there's always a lot of previous stuff that nobody really knows about. But
yeah, and the cool thing is you told me beforehand you have nothing to do tonight, so we can sit here all night.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Somebody asked me what happened, and they said they got the 30-second version. I says, okay, well, it's about 30 hours, so
Oh, good.
so we can be here all we can have a telethon.
Darcy brought a sleeping bag in the truck, so he's good.
I'm born and raised Alberta.
Really?
Yeah. If my family, I grew up on a farm, but if you shake my tree of generations, you'd probably find some alcoholics in there. My immediate family, I am the only person that suffers from an addiction of alcoholism, but I do have uncles and cousins. My grandfather died of alcoholism, and my uncle died of alcoholism. So it is there genetically. But for the most part, I had a normal life growing up. I have two older sisters. They're older than me, 11 and 14 years different. So I kind of grew up by myself. So I became very independent very young. My mom worked. She's from Poland originally, and my dad's first generation Canadian, and we grew up on a farm, so he was busy doing that, and he had a bulldozing company. So I kind of learned how to do things myself. I remember growing up, I wanted to learn how to drive the quad, so my dad just gave me the keys. He says, "You go figure it out." Okay.
Wow.
Or, hey, I want a pellet gun. Oh, here's a 22 instead. So I was very, very independent at a very young age. So
You farm kids had it freaking great.
yeah, you know what? I never had Nintendo. I loved Lego growing up. But it was good. I loved it. We had cattle. We did a little bit of grain farming. It was great. I remember being at a young age, 4, 5, 6, my dad would have people over and they'd be drinking and I'd have a sip of beer or whatever. But, you don't really count that as, drinking the first time, right? I don't even remember that. But I guess the first time I actually really got into the booze, I think I was about 14. took a bottle of Seagram 83 out of my dad's bar downstairs and went to a party and just drank the whole thing and went manic. My first drunk was like my last drunk. Totally manic, crying, yelling, screaming, wanting to do whatever. It was, looking back on it, I was like, wow, how your first drunk ends up being your last drunk.
Wow.
So, but I came home and all I remember my dad saying is, as long as you get up in the morning and do your chores. So I was like, okay, got away with that, right? And then growing up in high school, it was a drink, like I think anybody else did in high school for the most part. I never went to bush parties. I never did any of that stuff. I showed cattle. I raised cattle, so I drank, at cattle shows, and things like that. I never really drank with my high school peeps, I guess, if you want to say. But, grade 12, I did party quite a bit, showing cattle and dating a guy and one of his good friends. We drink quite a bit together. I was the only person at my grad that I think was drunk when I got to a dry grad. They got me on video crawling underneath the table looking for my purse because I had booze in there, and then I'm pouring drinks along the table for my friends because nobody had booze. But make sure Anita will have booze, right?
Yeah.
So I was that person, and
I would have loved you.
and track. I got drunk at the track. Like, I was very athletic in high school, and I played basketball and badminton, and I did track, and I made it to provincials in track. But I remember getting drunk at grade 12 track meet, and I think I got drunk on Boone's, for crying out loud.
Oh, Boone Strawberry Hill?
Yeah, something like that. And
Strawberry Farm?
I still won the 100. I still won the 200. We won the 4x100. Like, it was not a big deal, right? And then I went to track and provincials, and I really disappointed myself. I was hungover when I went to the provincial track meet, but you know what? Alcohol in high school wasn't the end all be all for me, though. But it was fun. I drank for fun. To be cool, I guess, at that time. Try to fit in a little bit, but it didn't consume my life at that point. I went to college. I actually went to college down in the States. And,
where'd you go?
Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got a livestock judging scholarship down there that I went for. So it was good. You know what? College was like any other college, right? Party on the weekends, go to classes during the week.
So were you a Cornhusker?
Yes, I was.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. I never really knew nothing about Nebraska, and I get off the plane and I see these big N's. And I'm like, what is this? It's a cult, And then I became a Cornhusker fan. Yeah. So, and I think even today I watch college sports, but I kind of still have a little bit of Cornhusker blood in me, I guess.
Of course you do, yeah.
So
they've always had pretty decent football teams.
Yeah,
right?
when I was going down there, they were kind of on their golden years, right?
Yeah, what years were you there?
I went down 2001, I think.
Yeah,
so they were kind of transitioning. They were still good at that point. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So, so it was. Yeah, so college was college, right? I never thought anything about, drinking. Really, that was out of the norm for me, right? Yeah, you drink, parties or whatever, but I always did have a roommate that was 21 though. So I had a roommate. She was a big pothead at the time, and I did try marijuana a couple times. It just didn't work for me. But me and my friend, one night she went booze cruising. That's what we did in college because I was on a dry campus. So we did a lot of booze cruising. And so I never drove because I didn't have a vehicle down there at the time. So we went in her car. Got like a 50-pack, a 48-pack of beer and went booze cruising, got a flat tire. Somehow we fixed it. An old farmer came up. He said, "You girls are okay." We're like, "Yeah, we're fine." Got the donut on and went on our merry way. Like, I will never forget that. It was like you know?
I love the fact that you said we got a 48 or 50 pack, not a 12 pack, not a case.
Oh no,
48 or 50.
it was a big. There was levels to it.
That's how I drank, man. I love it.
Yeah, you know, and when I drank with her, she, you know, drank like,
Yeah.
you know, so, but, you know, so it, you know, my early days were, you know, I probably did, you know, drink probably a little too much, but, you know, nothing really ever got affected. It was, I wasn't drinking because of, you know, other things that'll be brought up later, but, you know, it was mostly for fun or to fit in college, right? Yeah, so I graduated, came back to the farm, and I started farming with my dad full time. And he ended up getting sick one summer. He had a quadruple bypass, and I kind of think that's, you know, I kind of hit the drinking a little hard that summer. I didn't know how to cope with him being sick. Like, I couldn't even go see him at the hospital because I didn't want to, you know, have to deal with that fear and that pain, right? So, you know, I just drank for, you know, it was probably a solid week that it was just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And somehow, you know, we made hay that year, and we got calves sold, and, you know, we made through it, you know, we made it through it. So, but yeah, and then, you know, it was like any other thing, you know, I was doing the cattle thing, and, you know, drinking is part of the cattle life. You know, you go to a bull sale, there's booze. You go to a cattle show, there's booze. You know, it's just part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, showing cattle and alcohol. You know, you go to a cattle show in the morning, and, you know, you get to the barn, and first thing you do, you open the Baileys and coffee, right? And then after that, you just flow into the beer, and, you know, there was weeks where we'd show cattle that, thank God I had my sister there, because I would go wander and drink other people's booze and forget about my own cows. And I've done that numerous times, and I'd come back and everything was taken care of because I had a really good sister with me. So, you know, and so I'm very grateful for that. So, but, you know, that week of drinking was done, or a couple weeks of drinking, and, you know, life went back to normal for me, right? So, you know, and then there was partying, you know, going to the bars in Red Deer and all that fun stuff. But, and then one day, you know, I finally decided, you know, farming wasn't really optional anymore. It was BSC, just kind of, we went through that, and the bovine, spongy, whatever it's called. And, you know, cattle prices bombed, and we were trying to get back out of that.
Was that mad cow? Is that
Yeah, I guess,
that's what it was called. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm not scientifically minded, so mad cow makes
That's how
sense
I felt,
to me.
mad cow. You know, it was quite horrible, actually. But
Thanks, Darcy.
I decided, you know, oh no, you know what? I did have drink with some cool people though. Drank with a couple of professional hockey players, retired professional hockey players that are in the cattle industry. That was fun. You know, one thing that...
Did their last name start with S?
No.
Oh, they're not the Sutter brothers.
No.
Wow.
No.
I thought for sure Alberta was going to be the Sutter brothers.
No, out in Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention any names.
It's okay.
But, you know, it was pretty cool. Got to meet some really cool people through that experience of my life, and yeah, somehow booze was always around that though, right? At the end of the day, right? So, you know, I'm not here to talk about war stories and all that stuff, right? Because, like I said, it could be days. You know, it's what it's not about. But yeah, so then after that, I decided to get into law enforcement, and I applied for our CMP, got accepted, and went to training. And yeah, you know, initially I got into training, and, you know, I took it pretty serious. You want to talk about booze? I wasn't that boozer at training. You know, I did do the worm at our halfway. I won't ever forget that.
The which?
The worm, you know, on the floor at a bar once. But, you know, I was never that that person. But I got into the organization and let's be honest, alcohol and drinking is part of the RCMP culture.
There's a lot of dysfunction in that culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one thing is, and if you didn't drink, then you were considered a snitch. And it's hard for me to say that today, but it happens. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat things with the organization. I'm just going to say my experience and what I've experienced.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of good in this organization as well. So, but yeah, definitely alcohol is part of the culture. I had the party house. My house was one of the party houses. You get off shift, and what do you do to deal with what happened during the day? You all get together and you drink. It was kind of the norm at one point. It was, we all got together and we complained about the bosses, or we complained about how things are being ran, and instead of actually dealing with it, we just complain about it, right? Day over. But and then I had some trauma. The trauma started happening that I, to be honest, didn't realize at the time until now. Until I went to treatment and got that help. But yeah, I had emotional trauma. I had, like some harassment stuff going on. But a lot of emotional trauma, and I moved 4 times in 11 years with the organization, and I guess for me it was trying to think, hey, if I get out of that situation, I'll go that situation, I'll go that situation. But it was, you're just running away from your addiction that, you didn't really realize you had at the time, but something's going on, right? If that makes sense. But I ended up in traffic, and that was really cool. I enjoyed traffic. I said I'd never ride a motorcycle, got a motorcycle. So I went to really bad fatal where, it doesn't bother me today, but it bothered me for a long time. And, I went and I worked on a First Nations reserve, loved it. Great people. They welcomed me with open arms. The work was great, but there's trauma there that happened, and you don't realize it. How do you deal with it? You drink. And that's where my, between traffic and the First Nations policing, that's where my drinking really started to take place. That I started getting into a dark place. But it wasn't affecting work. It wasn't, drink on days off, because you were on call and stuff. So, you manage, it's manageable at that point. And I actually, this is quite funny, and this will make sense towards the end of the podcast, is I ended up getting a award out of the province of Alberta for getting one of the top most impaired driving charges in the province of Alberta. It will make sense later down the road when we go here.
I know where this is going.
Yeah. So, but I was good at what I did. Both sides of the...
Yeah, you were.
But at that point, I wasn't doing what I was doing. Like, I wasn't drinking and driving, and I wasn't doing all that stupid stuff. But, there's some good stuff in my life, but I just don't want to really mention it. But I got to mention that part because it is true. So
yeah, I think it's important too, though, right?
Yeah, it's important. Like
it shows the progression.
Yeah.
When you lead into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then so I ended up in High Prairie, got promoted, and I went to a dark place that I never want to go again. I just, I ended up, I don't even know how to explain it. I just had a lot of resentment. I had a lot of fear. I had now I know I had PTSD going on. My sleeping was off for years, dreams for years. I didn't know what was going on. But the way to deal with it was drink my face off. Days off, drink, I'd be cutting my lawn drinking, doing this, alcohol was always involved, constantly. It was just progressing. the disease was progressing. So I, and then I had some bad trauma up there, some bad files that, really got to me emotionally. And then there was some harassment stuff going on. And it was just progressing.
Can I ask you a question
Yeah.
just before you go on about the harassment? Just because today,
Yeah.
the harassment that has occurred and continues to occur in the RCMP is kind of a popular topic. Like it's kind of a hot topic. In law enforcement overall, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be clear and blunt. There was no sexual harassment.
Yeah, that's
it was
why I'm
just,
asking.
Yeah, it was just regular harassment stuff, right? So whatever,
I like
whatever you call regular harassment, but
it was the non-sexual kind.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
still not acceptable.
yeah,
Yeah.
you ask for help and it's kind of dismissed, or
Yeah.
they tell you one thing, so you ask for help and they dismiss it, and just stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? I was a supervisor, and if somebody had a problem, I really took it to heart, and I tried to fix it for them.
Yeah.
But, when I looked for help and I didn't get it, I was like, what's wrong here, right? So, but I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I asked about the harassment. Yeah. Because I wanted to kind of clarify it just in case, because I know like what's in the news a lot is
the sexual stuff.
harassment, right? So
that's one thing I'll never, it's never happened to me, and I'll just make that clear.
I have a feeling
I think I dish it out as bad as I take it.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I worked with a lot of guys in my career, and I've worked with very seldom females, and I don't know if that comes to trust issues or what, but I've never had issues. But
yeah,
like
you've never had issues. That's the point.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate, and because there's a lot of females out there that
Yeah.
And I think guys, and we don't talk about the guy part of it, but that's a
right,
whole
we
different.
sure don't.
That's a whole different topic, though,
Yeah.
right? So, but yeah, so I just went down to a dark place and ended up with a roommate who was a codependent. It was great. He would buy a case of wine, and hey, I never drank wine, but hey, let's do it.
Until it's free.
Yeah, I'd cook the supper and he'd
Yeah.
buy the booze. It was a great relationship.
That's awesome.
And we would drink over anything and everything, right? And so we'll get to it. I ended up with an incident at work with booze in 2016, and so they said, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm using alcohol as a crutch. Life goes on. I go see an addictions counselor. I got this. I can do it by myself." So I go see an addictions counselor, and of course, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to keep drinking, but I got to do it responsibly, right? So what did I do? I did the 2-drink rule. I didn't drink wine anymore. I only drank beer. I only drank hard liquor when I went to Vegas. I did it all.
All the rules.
All the rules
Yeah.
that you're supposed to do when you're trying to, I don't know, responsibly drink.
Yep. You're trying to control your drinking, right?
Yeah, because prior to that, I was drinking, for all the emotional fear, the resentments, the everything that piled up, right? So I did that for a while, and it was great. And then they ended up charging me with an impaired from the first incident. And I lost a lot of trust and faith in the RCMP at that point. And
So this was after you went for help. They then charged you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And because, there was enough evidence, I guess.
I think the timing's important, though, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So they charged me. At this point, I'm barely holding things together mentally, emotionally. I look great on the outside, though. I put that mask on perfectly. I was running a detachment, and I was supervising members. I was going to town meetings. I was doing this. I was doing that. But every day I got home, I'd drink because I couldn't deal with the past stuff. Where I was working was great. It was a healthy environment. I wasn't drinking anything over that part, but it was all the back stuff. And I just was so mad, and like things just kept going, and I didn't know how to cope with things. And I started getting reckless. And, I would I started, there was a few times I started, on days off, I would drink in the morning, and I was looking at myself like, why am I doing this? But I couldn't figure it out, and it was, but hey, on the outside though, I'm the perfect person. Nobody knows any different. And I think I had my roommate fooled. He knew I had a drinking problem, but he just kept bringing booze, and we'd keep drinking, and he would have a couple, because he'd have to, he was either working in the morning or whatever, and I'd have 6, right? And it was to the point where I would, I don't know, take his booze, actually. I knew he had a bottle of booze in his room. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this, because I still have to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
But, I know he came back from holidays and he had a bottle of rum. So I went and, what did I do? The old trick? I put water in it thinking he wouldn't notice.
Thank the good Lord for white rum, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. But, but during all this time, though, every night I'd go to bed, passed out or whatever. And it wasn't daily. Like, I want to make clear, it wasn't daily. I wouldn't be drinking daily, because I still was on call as a supervisor. And, I would work my drinking around work. Yeah. I would manipulate my drinking, right? And it wasn't every day. And I wasn't going to work drunk. I wasn't waking up and, taking a shot of vodka or anything like that. But, I was coping with booze. So long story short, I guess, so this kept going and going and going. But I couldn't figure out why I couldn't stop drinking, right? Like, I'd get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm not going to drink for tomorrow. I'm not going to drink tomorrow. Not going to drink tomorrow. My dad calls me. He's like, Anita, can you promise me you won't drink for 30 days? Oh yeah, Dad, no problem. I made it 30 hours, I think, to be honest. I just couldn't figure out why I can't stop, whether it be 2 or 6, right? And so I got acquitted of that impaired. But I'm still holding a lot of resentment and a lot of fear and a lot of, one thing that we people with addiction have, I find, is resentment and fear are our biggest reason we drink, right?
They're pretty pivotal, yeah.
Yeah, and one day I just decided, a friend of mine decided to say, Anita, come and have a drink. And he's been hounding me for a year at this point. And I says, okay. And at this point, I am starting to drink hard liquor again. Because I said, when I went to go see the drug counselor, I says, no hard liquor, no that, But I started drinking the hard booze. And I started, taking risks where I would drink and I would drive. And I knew that was wrong. Yep. In my heart, I knew that was totally immoral, because what do? I arrest people for impaired driving, right? As I said earlier. But my head, those wires in my head was like, no, Anita, this is little devil's like, no, you need to go and drink. And I couldn't stop. Yeah. So I ended up going in what I thought was a couple bottles. I don't know.
It's all relative, man.
A couple ounces.
Yeah.
I thought it was a couple ounces, but it was more than a couple ounces. And I did the most horrible, and then the most horrible thing happened to me. I ended up blacking out and driving, and getting caught, getting in a valid impaired, I would say, definitely. Fought with the members, things I'm not proud of, but things I'm working on to resolve. And I took my lumps. That night was a horrible night. Like I said, my first time I ever got drunk on that Seagram's 83, where I went manic, that was me with seizures. Yeah. And wow. I was, from one point, when I finally came to and realized what I did, I was crying, I was yelling, I was crying, I was yelling, I was making fun of members. I was all over the board, because it was like, 20 years of emotion coming out at once.
Yeah.
This is not normal behavior, even for when I used to be happy drunk, Anita. You know, just all this stuff just came out at once, and you know, and the embarrassment, right? Like what did I just do? And I ended up, so that night, my life changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Since I was June 1st, 2018. And, you know, my life totally dramatically changed. But prior to that, though, I did know something was going on wrong. And I was trying to reach out and asking for help, and it just didn't come quick enough. And I don't blame anybody for that. You know, I guess this had to happen. And they asked me if I wanted to go to treatment. And this is my second time around since they knew that I had alcohol issues, and I was so broken inside. I'm probably still drunk, but mostly broken. I could feel.
You can be both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I drank, because I was broken inside.
Yeah.
The outside looked perfect, but the inside hurt, right? And they asked me if I wanted to go to treatment, and I says yeah. And we got the ball rolling, and I ended up staying with a friend. Well, of course, lost my wheels and all that stuff. And I ended up with a friend for the time being until I went to treatment to kind of, I guess, detox, kind of come down, kind of watch me, because I didn't know if I was going to be suicidal or not, you know, with everything going on. And June 11th, I got on a plane and I went to Edgewood Treatment Center in Nanaimo. But before I did that, though, I decided to have one last drunk at the airport. You know, because a good drunk decides, you know, I got some bad news that Monday morning, so I needed to go drink it away, because that's what we do. We drink over being mad and fearful and resentful, and I was happy I was going to treatment, but I was just drinking out of anger. And but I was pretty paranoid at the airport. I thought the undercover cops were watching me. Who bar hops in an airport before they go to treatment? I do. I
that
do.
Girl.
Yeah. You know, like I'm bar hopping at the Edmonton International Airport. You know, because
The only thing that would make it better is if you were in a wheelchair wheeling to each bar.
Well, yeah. You know,
And I say that because she can walk. That's why I say that.
yeah. But yeah, so I ended up going to Edgewood. I was an inpatient I was there for 57 days. And I was introduced to my alcoholism, I guess, for the, you know, I knew for the last couple of years prior to going to treatment, there was something definitely wrong with me. But, you know, how us alcoholics run, and what I've learned is that we run our own, we run on our own will. We run out of fear, resentment. We hold things. I didn't realize I was such an emotional person until I went to treatment and started learning about myself. Like, I'm not emotional. What are you talking about? I'm not sensitive. Oh, I am. And I did not know that. But, you know, that's how I built up all that, you know, emotional trauma. Because I just pack it away, didn't talk about it. And if I did talk about it, I was either half drunk and didn't remember what I talked about, right? Like, I didn't express it in a healthy way, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I went to the treatment center, and I found out about myself. You know, first few days there, you know, I was pretty delusional still. I was like, whoa, like, okay, my God, I got all this stuff going through my head. What did I just do, 3 weeks ago? What's my life going to be like now? There was a moment at treatment, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this and learn how to drink responsibly, and I'll be fine. Nobody will ever know. Once I get out of here, I can drink under the radar. Like, these thoughts are going through my mind at treatment. As I understand, these are normal thoughts, and, I start...
They're pretty normal, yeah.
The what?
Yeah, they're pretty normal. For sure.
For the parent,
Yeah.
So, I...
You got lots of time.
Oh, well, I don't know. But, it was... really eye-opening, because for me, I realized I'm just a normal human being. I'm a drunk, and it's okay. And I realized that there's other members in law enforcement that are the exact same place as me. And it's okay. Because I always thought I was alone in this world, whether it be in law enforcement or, especially in the law enforcement community.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that, female alcoholic in law enforcement. Like, who wants that sticker on their forehead?
Yeah.
I want to be the fun law enforcement officer,
Yeah.
not the...
Well, I imagine as a female law enforcement officer, it's hard enough as it is.
Yeah,
Without having an extra stigma attached, right?
Yeah, and, I never wanted that.
Yeah.
I didn't, if I know what I know today, what I knew 3 years ago, but life doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot to process, the first, little while, especially in the bubble. Because in treatment, you're in the bubble. You do what you're told. I guess it's like being in jail. I don't know. I've never been in jail.
Yeah, I don't either.
I've, put a lot of people in jail, but, but I've never done, But yeah, they tell you when to eat. They do this, they do that, but, it was good. I was introduced to a 12-step program while inside, and, I became very vulnerable to that and to some of the good friends that I still have today. There's one of my good friends, I talk to her every day. She's my roommate.
Right
and,
on.
we work recovery together, so it's great. So I was in treatment for 57 days, and yeah, it was definitely an experience. My family came and visited me, which was nice. They didn't have to come all the way from Alberta, but they did a few times, and I think they were trying to figure what was going on, because I did shock a lot of people for what I did, especially my family. And
well, I imagine it's like so out of character.
Yeah,
right?
and even
like,
people that I knew, right? Like this was, but like I said, it was all inside, and I had the mask, right? Like I wore many masks when I had to, whether it's the professional mask, the happy mask, the, beat you up mask, it was, I had it there, the boss mask, so, but yeah, and then, I came out of, treatment, and, I met a lot of good people, and I just have a utmost respect for the treatment centers, especially the one I went to. But one thing I will tell you about treatment, it's not a cure-all, you got to put in the work when you're there, and you have to do the work when you get out.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm going to go there and get fixed and I'm good to go back into society, right? Because when you leave the bubble, it's difficult.
That's an important point. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because it is a bubble.
It's a safe bubble. Like, where am I going to get booze? Like, you're not even allowed hand sanitizer. Like, I wonder what they're doing now there. But, but it's difficult, right? So when you get out of that bubble, you got to, whatever program you work outside of treatment is up to you, whether it's a 12-step program, a spiritual program, a religious program, it's, everybody has their own path, right?
Yeah.
I decided to take the path of a 12-step program. So I, of course, not working, so I moved to Red Deer. My sister was gracious enough to let me sleep in her basement. And
Yay, sisters!
Yeah, it was great, because they got meals cooked every day for them. It was, and
nice.
I felt useful again, and I worked my 12-step program, and I'm getting healthy, and trying to work on myself, psychologists and program and recovery, eat, sleep, and breathe that, right? Because what else do I have to do? Nothing, because I take the bus everywhere, I bicycle, I listen to podcasts, and it was great, doing all that. Met a lot of good people in recovery, and I'm starting to figure out why I did what I did. Treatment gave me the foundation. Now going into the real world, okay, this is real. Now I got to actually apply what I learned and what I'm learning now. And so what resentments do I have? What am I fearful of? You know, why do I have so much anger that I didn't think of? And why am I so sensitive? And, you know, and I'm just working through a lot of stuff right now. Like, I am duly diagnosed with PTSD and alcohol dependency. So, you know, and a lot of my alcoholism is related to my PTSD. You know, yeah, I was probably genetically prone to alcoholism.
You might have been predisposed, eh?
Yeah,
maybe.
for sure. You know, that's what my psychologist tells me. But a lot of it builds up over time, and then it just kind of exploded. You know, so like right now I'm working with my psychologist, and we're going through stuff like EMDR and, you know, working through that trauma. And, you know, I have one program for my alcoholism and one program for my trauma. And with all this stuff, you know, I feel like I have a pretty good base today as I sit here. You know, I don't run my own life anymore. You know, I have a God that runs my life, right? Because if I run my own life, I probably run to a bottle, you know. But I don't have an obsession to drink today, which I'm very grateful for.
It's powerful.
You know, it's just amazing of what a person can do and change and realize, you know, the things that I self-reflect on and what I've learned in my past of why I did what I did. And, you know, like I said, I would lie if I didn't say drinking was fun. It was fun at one point, but the last couple of years, it wasn't fun anymore. I was drinking just to survive, to calm my mind, to just escape from reality for that moment, you know. And then when I woke up and I couldn't stop, I knew there was something wrong, right? Because when you fun drink, you can stop, like a normie, right?
Yeah.
AKA earth people.
Earth people.
Yeah, I call them earth people, you know, because you can have a drink and put it away.
Yeah. Earthling.
Yeah, if you're an earthling, right?
Maybe you're an earthling.
You know, so, but, you know, but us with an addiction, it's like, no, I need one more, you know. So I guess, you know, I'm just happy that I'm sober today. And as of my court, I, of course, got charged, you know, with impaired. You know, I'm not proud of that. But I can't forget about it. It's always going to be there, but I can learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again, or it doesn't happen, you know. Like it says, don't close the door on our pasts, right? Because it can help somebody else in recovery from my story. And I was fortunate enough that I got discharges. I got a curative discharge and a conditional discharge. So, you know, so I'm very fortunate for that part of it. And work, I'm still off. And you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with that. You know, we'll see where the road takes me with that. But all I know is I do what I need to do today, and everything will be okay. You know, I'm not fearful, not irritable. You know, some days, well, how do I put this? It's not always rainbows and unicorns, because we are all human. But for the most part, I am at peace today.
Yeah.
You know, within my own head.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't have to worry about picking up that drink and, you know, ruining my life again.
How nice is it just to have a little bit of peace in your head, though?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and not always, but you know what? I can find that peace awfully quickly today, whether it be through meditation or a walk, or, you know, just that 5 minutes of complete silence. You know, through this COVID pandemic, I'm, you know, trying to do more of that stuff, right? And, you know, I go for a lot of walks. So, and then I started, you know, I used to run a lot before this all happened, and I didn't enjoy running before I, you know, hit my rock bottom. But now today, I actually enjoy running.
yeah.
I found my passion again for things that I lost when I went into that dark spot.
Cool.
And, you know, I got a dog, and, well, he actually seen me drunk a few times. So, he never seen mama sober. I got a kitten.
Yeah.
She's never seen mama drink. They're my kids, you know. People talk about their little children. I have fur babies,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah, but they're awesome.
they're my family, right?
Yeah.
And you know.
And didn't your dog go through trauma therapy training?
No, he went. He's an animal therapy dog
Yeah.
for to go into senior citizen homes, hospitals, and schools.
Awesome.
So we were supposed to start up, but unfortunately COVID happened. So hopefully, you know, we'll get back at it once. Maybe if we go to normalcy, we'll see.
Or some semblance of normalcy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's so cool, man. I love those doggos.
the doggos.
Yeah, I just love it. Well, especially the therapy ones.
Yeah. He's lovable. Like
Yeah.
he's just so chill.
And black labs are great anyway.
Yeah. I should have brought him today. But
No, it's okay. I messaged her trying to get her to bring both the dog and the cat. Yeah. And she goes, I'm bringing my sister. I said, okay, fine. Your sister can come. Yeah, I know. But you know, that's one of the things I miss with the pandemic is hugging dogs, man.
yeah.
Like it's those little things. You get to hug dogs because you have dogs, but yeah, us non-dog havers, we have to just watch. I can honestly tell the dogs are sad
Yeah.
out there that people aren't able to get them.
Yeah.
Like run up and just scratch their heads and like their eyes when they walk by and they just look at you and you're like, I can't do anything, doggo. And it's like watering in the eyes. Poor dogs.
Yeah, that's like Bob. Yeah, he has an old man. Like he's only 3.5, but he has
Yeah.
an old man lab face.
Yeah, he totally
on
does.
him. Yeah. So, yeah.
How old is your kitten?
She's probably about 14 weeks now.
Is she?
Yeah.
She's adorable.
Lois. That's her
Lois?
name. Yeah, Lois.
Lois.
Yeah.
And Bob.
Yeah.
How do they get along?
They're great. They love each other.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. You know, that Bob's little sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. She was hacking up her hairball the other day, and he was all worried. He was all watching her,
Oh,
making
yeah?
sure she's okay. And
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They're really great together.
That's awesome that dogs and cats can do that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes they can bond like that because I tell you what, having two cats, they don't always fucking bond.
Yeah. Well, that's why I decided to get a
two
kitten.
cats.
That's why I got a kitten, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, because I was like, I can adopt an old cat. I'm like, I don't know where this old cat's been.
Yeah.
At least a kitten, they're almost forced to like each other at that
Yeah.
point, right? So,
That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Cats just fight. Yeah, my two cats, they like pretend to like each other.
Yeah.
Or they pretend to hate each other. I'm not sure which is which, but they pretend and then they go nuts.
Yeah.
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 They're dicks. So what's life like today?
You know, yeah, I pretty much just said it. They're kind of at the end, you know,
Yeah.
it is, it's like Groundhog Day right now with this COVID
Yeah,
thing, you know,
for
to
sure
be
it is.
honest, right? Like we're on
Yeah.
April 25th here. So
What's it like month 2 now, right? Like
45 days or something,
Yeah.
50 days. So, you know, it is what it is, right? We adjust to the times, and I'm doing the best I can, right?
Yeah.
And I still have my recovery, and, you know, I still work a program. It's just in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, thank God for the internet and
mm-hmm.
cell phones and phone calls.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't like people to begin with, so, you know, but I will miss, I do kind of miss a little bit of the human contact though, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I actually missed that part until it's gone. And, you know, cause you have your friends and you miss that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you just keep going with it, and, you know, eventually we'll get through this
Yeah.
crisis. And like I was told, out of every crisis, there's something good that comes out of it for every person. So you just gotta find that eventually, and just keep the faith and have hope that, you know, you can find that after the end of it all. So
I agree. I think, and the friend thing is just a mind fuck, right? Like earlier before when you guys got here, like 3 best friends are in the room, and I haven't seen 2 of them in like months.
yeah,
And it's disheartening, right? Like, to be honest, part of the reason I even had the podcast today with them was just to see them.
Yeah.
Like we really just talked a bunch of shit for like an hour. That's all we did.
Hey, but that's okay though,
It
right?
was perfect. It was like the four of us having coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so you know what? How long? What's the time? Hour? Thank you for coming down.
Oh, you're welcome.
Like, I really appreciate this. I think I wanted to ask you a question because I was talking to Darcy about it earlier. So the RCMP as an organization.
Yes.
Now, I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of them, of course.
No.
But what I'm suggesting is the organization is fucked. Like, it's a fucked organization. It's racist. It's sexist. It's outdated. My question about it is how is it possible to have so many wonderful humans work for this organization that is basically based on shit? Like, because I know lots of members and I love you guys. Like the members that I know are just amazing. So, but the organization's separate from that, right? And I mean, I'm okay looking at those things separately, but I guess I wonder, like, how does that affect you? Because you're a good human. Like, does it affect you at all? Even the reputation of the RCMP as a service, does that impact your day to day? Like when you're working or when you're not working?
That's a really good question.
Or do you even think about it? Can you even think about it?
You know, I didn't really even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, ask me that question in a few months.
I will. Yeah. No,
You
like,
know?
because I'm very curious, right?
Yeah, I never, you know, to be honest, I can't sit here and say I thought about it.
Yeah.
I all I know is that there are a lot of good human beings in this organization.
Yeah, there are.
From all different levels.
Mm-hmm.
There are horrible ones too.
Yeah.
But that's in any organization, right?
It's true.
Whether it's law enforcement, fire,
Yeah.
first responders general, or somebody sitting in a tower in downtown Calgary, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah, I think it's like, because the history of the RCMP is shady, right? Like it's shady, the present shady, like they're shady. And that, to me, as a citizen of this country, I think the organization as it stands, not in general, but as it stands, needs to crumble. Like it just needs to crumble so that the good people that are in the organization don't get ground the fuck out,
Yeah.
right? Much like CPS or any of the other agencies. I'm not just throwing them under the bus, although they do deserve getting thrown under the bus for some of the shit they have done.
Yeah,
Right.
and the one thing with
But not the members. This is the organization.
yeah, the
right?
organization. One thing that I could say about the organization, this is just my opinion, is it's so big, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so big, and you know, and I don't know if that's part of the problem. I hope as an organization we're changing in a good way. You know, a lot of things are coming to the surface, and I hope that does bring change in a
Yeah.
positive way, whatever it be. And you know, like we got a union now, and
You guys just got a union?
yeah, January. You know,
Get the fuck out of here.
but yeah, you know,
Were you the only agency in Canada without an association?
Yes.
Jesus,
The what?
man.
No, we weren't. It actually went up through the Supreme Court of Canada and
God, this explains
voted,
so much.
and
Yeah.
it's been in the works for years.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see what happens with it. You know, time will tell.
Are you excited by the fact that you have a union now, or is that kind of something that is not even on your radar?
Actually, I hope it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I am engaged in a certain degree.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
with them, and so far so good. So
Right on.
you know, we might have to do a follow up
I'd be happy to.
because you
yeah.
know that's like the.
Well, I'm going to
question-
give you 6 months to think about the question.
Okay.
And then we'll do another one.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it. Because to me, that's like, it's very important
Yeah.
for lots of reasons. And something you just said, it got me thinking in a whole different train of thought. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I've been kind of an asshole to the RCMP for like 6 months. But they deserve it. So I'm not going to feel bad about that. What I'm thinking of, though, is the enormity of the organization and how slow that change will take place. Like we're looking at CPS right now going through some incredible changes over the last couple of years, but they're a smaller organization. So that change may be felt sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Whereas with the RCMP, God, it just starts making so much sense. I didn't realize they didn't have an association.
No.
I can't believe that. Like that boggles my mind. No wonder you guys are abused by executive.
Yeah, you know, and
Like no wonder.
and we are so large, right? Like 20,000 members across the country, right?
Huge,
Coast to coast, provincially contracted as well as federal, right? There's so many different aspects of this organization, and one part of the country might be different than the other part or their needs. But, I've got 14 years and all you can do is have hope that, things will get better for the members, especially for the frontline members, right? Because that's where the shit gets real.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And that's, like,
I'm talking about the constables.
We lost one of our good members.
Yeah.
And, another one injured, and that's where shit gets real, and hopefully the
And see, when we're talking about that stuff, the constables on the street, the sergeants, corporals on the street, whoever on the street, that's all I care about, really. Yeah. I could care less about the executive. I could care less if they fire 10,000 of the top people. Yeah. It's the street people that are the bread and butter of any organization, specifically law enforcement, right? And I think that idea definitely is starting to be, with the new chief here in town, for example, like that idea of, okay, these people are our important people. Yeah. We are going to treat these people importantly. We're not going to treat them like being a street constable is a bad thing. Yeah. Because that's the whole fucking job. Yeah. Right? Like, without the street constables, there is no executive. No. Right? So it's kind of like, really, would anybody care if 5,000 of the RCMP's executive were fired? No. Nobody would, except for those 5,000 people and their families, right? Yeah. But the rest of us would be like, yeah, it's about time. Because probably out of the 5,000, 4,500 are fucking racist, right? Yeah. Obviously, I'm just making those numbers up.
For sure.
If you're out there counting, I don't know. I'm just making that shit up. But there has to be a disproportionate amount of racism in the upper echelons of it for it to still maintain that racist approach, right? Like, the Indigenous are our enemies. Like that approach from the executive, not from the constables, from the executive, that obviously trickles into some constables who are maybe already predisposed to that, right? Yeah. To racist or whatever.
And you're going to have that in everywhere, right? Like that racism and that...
You're absolutely right.
In anything, right? In any level of policing, I've seen members being very racist and make comments, and, I probably was one of them at one point when I was drinking, right? But I just... treat everybody with respect.
Yeah.
Be treated like you want to be treated, and then don't complain when you're not treated with respect if you don't treat people with respect. And it's just human nature. Like, it's just, I'm not saying that we have to live in a utopia and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But
although that'd be nice.
I don't know, man. I don't even like giving hugs.
I mean, we can't hold hands anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But, like...
virtual.
But, I'm just saying, just treat people with respect, right? Wherever they come from, And one thing I found going through this journey myself is I've always had empathy and sympathy before, but now it's like I can relate more. Yeah. Like I dealt with a lot of drunks, a lot of alcoholics, a lot of,
That's kind of a cool gift of the 12-step programs, eh?
Yeah, and the thing is I used to give people, like, I'd get an impaired driver, and I said, maybe you should go get some help. I actually told that line to lots of people. Yeah.
But now you can tell it honestly.
I can tell it honestly. Like, I knew that was out there, but I can actually sit down and be like, hey, this is real stuff.
It's powerful shit.
Right? So that's a gift. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I agree. It's a gift, and thank you for giving us a gift tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, we'll come back in 6 months.
Yeah, we will. No, we will for sure. So think about the question.
Okay.
Because just to close it off, like, some of my favorite people are either active members in the RCMP or retired members, and so, like, to me, it's baffling because I know what the history of the organization is ridiculous. Like, somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, and I said they should just fucking shit can the whole goddamn organization, right? Because of the racism that, like, towards the Indigenous populations, towards every human being in Canada who's a fucking terrorist potentially. I can't get my head around that stuff. But anyways, I'm not going to get worked up, Darcy. Don't worry about it. You won't have to edit it out. It's really like my uncle's a retired RCMP member. Like, and he's lovely, but there's moments where I'm like, wow, that's borderline. Like, but I know it's not him. It's like the rhetoric, right? It's like the same old rhetoric that you hear from older members.
Well, it's the old, and I don't know if this is politically correct to say or not. It's the old school. It's the old boys club.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's that generation. And sometimes that generation will rub off to another generation, maybe not meant to, but it does. And then it goes down to that next generation of members, right?
Yeah.
So I think the only way
Is
personally
to work it out gradually.
is work it out, or, you know, get those supervisors that have that leadership, that have that understanding, that have, you know, that normacy, I guess, you know, of, you know.
And the younger members like yourself, when you're given the opportunity to show those older members how fucking stupid they are.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it just takes time, and some listen, some are set in their ways, right?
Yeah.
So, but
I'm such a judgy prick sometimes when it comes out. Like, I go, how fucking stupid. Like, please cut out that. But when they recognize, when the younger constables are working with older constables and they recognize that how the older constables are approaching the job, look at me, be professional, how they're approaching the job in a non-healthy, toxic manner for civilization. Look at me go, right? That's how I describe fucking stupid in more words than two. But anyways, you know what I mean, right? Like, it's really, I think as the older constables or whoever, supervisors, see younger people not acting the same way, they can learn too, right?
Everybody can learn from everybody,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, can you teach an old dog new tricks? You know, that's the question. That's $1 million question.
And are there going to be enough young constables to try to teach them new tricks?
Yeah.
That are willing to stand up, like you said with that. And that's something that I'll remember probably from this conversation is, it wasn't just that you had to drink. The reasons you had to drink were in order to avoid being called a snitch.
Yeah.
Like, and other people out there who've never been a part of like a boys club or a tight group of people may have a hard time understanding that.
Yeah.
How hard, how much pressure that is.
Yeah. And I'm not, and like when I said that, I didn't mean.
It's not their fault, but
no,
there's pressure.
and it's not, and I'm not meaning like that you are, but you know, I was told that very young in my career by somebody, you know, so you know, you take it to heart. Being a female, wanting to fit into a detachment, let's, you know, I could drink with these boys. You know, I thought I knew how to drink before I got into the organization because, you know, showing cattle, I would drink with, you know, 40, 50, 60-year-old men that could drink and I could hold my own.
Because they've been drinking for 40 years.
Yeah. But, you know, you come into this organization, you're like, oh my God, I'm a baby, you know? Like, and then, you know.
Yeah, this escalated quickly.
Yeah. And then with everything else going on, you're like, oh, geez.
That's funny because when I came to when I started to realize I had a real problem, I was working overnights at the drop-in center. I was working their intox floor. And I, like every fourth shift, I would go to the river with my shift mates and we would drink by the river. We literally adopted the same pattern of drinking as the people we were helping every night. Yeah. And it wasn't evident until I quit. Yeah. Like we could see we're like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, let's hopefully not bump into any of our guests or clients, right? Yeah. But once you start drinking, we didn't give a shit. Like, seriously, it wasn't until then that I got kicked out of a bar at 10 a.m. Yeah. Who gets kicked out of a bar when the bar first opens? You haven't even had your first beer yet there, but we're already drunk, right? Because we worked overnights. Yeah. And I'm not trying to tell war stories. I'm just saying, like, we start to adopt those things, right? And we don't even necessarily conscious of it. Yeah. Because it suits our life at the time, so we adopt it, right? And it's kind of like, yeah, I could have said no. I absolutely could have said no. But when other people around are saying, well, this is what we do to let off steam, you say, oh, it must be a good idea. Like, it didn't even occur to me that was problematic, right? Until looking back in my step one. Yeah. Right. And saying, holy crap, like that really was a catalyst. Yeah. Was working there. the trauma that you experience by people dying every other night, right, in a shelter. The trauma, this was the old drop-in before they had the fancy new building.
Yeah.
And it was shit. Like, we were housing people as best we could, but it was not good, right? It was basically like triaging homeless people. Like, I don't know how many people died in the year that I worked there, but it was several. I personally found 2 in the morning.
Wow.
And like, it's just the same kind of idea, right? That trauma. And then you start adopting the basic coping mechanisms of the other people around you, right? And it's not like anyone said, Dave, you better drink or you're out. No, never. But it absolutely was, Dave, you have to don't forget to bring beer to put in the fridge our last night shift.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was like, oh, so even if I was thinking, okay, I don't want to drink because I was really trying to control my drinking because I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
But honestly, I figured it was my job or my girl, or it wasn't the booze. It was all this other stuff.
It was always the other thing, right?
That's
yeah.
right.
And that was like me. It was like, you know, if I drink, I can put this away, or I can, you know, or I can forget about that. Or, you know, sometimes I would drink out of boredom, plain and simple, you know, but then that boredom would turn into something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's just miraculous of like when you reflect of like how it metamorphosizes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big word for me. Woo!
Way to go. That was pretty good.
I can actually pronounce it.
Yeah, and you used it appropriately as well.
Did I get an A? I was never good at English class in high school.
Honestly, I thought you were speaking like a true professional, but apparently it was luck.
Oh God, yeah, I'm no professional.
Oh shit. Oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
I am so grateful. Thank you for coming
You're
and
welcome.
honoring us with your story, with your presence, and thanks for bringing your sister.
Yeah,
You know,
and you know what? In 6 months, I'll bring Bob.
That'll be awesome.
'Kay.
And you can come too. You can, your sister can come even if the dog and cat come. Thank you for tuning in this week to the Voices in Recovery podcast. Please stay tuned every Wednesday as we air another episode. Thank you for your time. And please, if you're in trouble, reach out. If you need to contact us at www.freedomspathrecoverysociety.ca, or you can look for us on Facebook under Freedom's Path Recovery Society. Thank you again for tuning in. Please stay tuned for upcoming groups, activities, and podcasts.